Now we're looking at part 6 of the review for the CFA coming up on inverses and radical functions. So now we're looking at actually solving for x when you're given a cube root or radical function of some sort. So when we look at this expression, we see that we have a cube root, and we see that we have a value in front, an a value, and then we have constants. So what we want to do is we want to isolate this radical. So I'm going to circle the radical because that's going to be my focus. I want to leave that as one expression, and I'm going to isolate it. So let's keep it the same. So the first thing I'm going to do, just like any algebraic equation, is there anything I need to add or subtract to either side? And of course, there is. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add the 3 to both sides. So that's going to leave me with 4 times the cube root of x plus 1 equals 16. So once again, I want to isolate the radical. This is what I'm trying to isolate. So I need to get rid of that 4. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4. That gets rid of the 4's here because those 4 divided by 4 is 1. So that leaves me with the cube root of x plus 1 equals 4. Because 16 divided by 4 is 4. So the question is now, what do we do from here? Well, we did an example of this earlier on the previous video, and what we need to do is find the inverse to get rid of the cube root. The inverse operation of cube root is to cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cube both sides. Cubing a cube root just gives us the radicand, or what was underneath the radical sign. And then 4 cubed, 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. So I've got x plus 1 equals 64. So for my last step, I just solve for x. I'm going to subtract the 1. So x equals 63. And that's how we solve for the cubic if we have a cube root. If I were to plug this back in, and I plug 64 in for x to check my work, 63 plus 1 would give me 64. The cube root of 64 is in fact 4. 4 times 4 is 16 minus 3 is 13. It works. And again, if you want to take some more time to plug that in, you're welcome to check your answer. So let's look now at B. B gives us the cube root of x plus 1 equals 1. So once again, I need to pick out what it is that I'm going to isolate. And I didn't write that very well. That is a cube root here. That's a 3. So I'm going to circle the value I want to isolate. Well, I want to isolate this, but it's pretty much already isolated for me. There's no a value in front. It's a 1. In the k, there's no constant value off to the side. So basically, I just have the cube root of x plus 1 equals 1. So my next step is going to be to get rid of that radical sign. And again, you do the inverse operation. So if it's cube root, you're going to cube it. So the cube of a cube root just leaves you with x plus 1, and 1 cubed is 1. So for my next step, I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So x equals 0. And if you want to check your answer, you plug the 0 back in. 0 plus 1 is 1, and the cube root of 1 is indeed 1. So we've got the correct answer. So let's do one more, and let's do C. So I'll move the paper up a little bit, and we'll do 6C. So 6C is negative 6 times the cube root of x minus 5 plus 3 equals 15. So again, same concept. I want to solve this for x and find out what x is. I want to try to isolate that radical expression. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's an addition or subtraction I can do, and there is. That's a positive 3, so I'm going to subtract it. So that'll leave me with negative 6 times the cube root of x minus 5 equals 12. So once again, I'm looking at isolating my radical. So in order to do that, I need to do a division. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. Now when I do this, I get 1 here, so I'm just left with cube root of x minus 5. And 12 divided by negative 6 is negative 2. So at this point, what do? Well, we want to get rid of the radical. So the inverse operation of cube root is to cube. So we're going to cube both sides. A cube to cube root just leaves you what's underneath. And then negative 2 cubed is negative 8. And then my last step, of course, is going to be to solve for x. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So x equals negative 3. If I were to take the negative 3 and plug it back in, negative 3 minus 5 would give me negative 8 underneath here. The cube root of negative 8 is negative 2. So that would be negative 6 times negative 2, which is positive 12, plus 3, which is 15. So it checks out. And so that's how you solve for x when you're given a cube root function.